Why bored human soldiers are the most dangerous opponents. A sci-fi HFY story. Introduction. The overconfident invaders. The Xel'Nath Empire had never known failure. For centuries, they had expanded across the galaxy, conquering weaker species and absorbing them into their vast dominion. Their strategy was simple: strike hard, strike fast, and leave no room for resistance. Their soldiers were bioengineered for war, their technology vastly superior to most known civilizations, and their tactics honed through hundreds of successful campaigns. To them, humanity was just another backwater species, technologically capable but nowhere near the level of the great galactic powers. Reports indicated that humans were stubborn and chaotic, but nothing the Xel'Nath hadn't dealt with before. They had crushed far fiercer opponents in the past. So when their fleet arrived at Outpost Tetra 9, a remote human colony on the fringes of the Orion Arm, they expected nothing more than a routine subjugation. There was no fleet guarding it, no advanced planetary defenses, just a small garrison of human soldiers stationed on the surface. 1. First contact gone wrong. The Xel'Nath battlecruiser Vrexkull emerged from hyperspace, accompanied by a fleet of smaller escort ships. Their mission: secure the colony, capture any strategic assets, and pacify the human presence. A swift and decisive operation like all their previous conquests. From orbit, their scanners confirmed what their intelligence reports had suggested: Tetra 9 was barely defended. The colony consisted of a few industrial zones, a central settlement, and a single Terran Defense Force garrison with an estimated 300 soldiers. A skeleton crew, likely bored out of their minds, assigned to a worthless rock at the edge of nowhere. The Xel'Nath Supreme Commander, Vorshakul, sneered. Pathetic. This will be over within the hour. Begin planetary descent, he ordered. Standard occupation protocols. No heavy bombardment. We want them alive for processing. The fleet descended, and the first wave of Xel'Nath warriors deployed onto the surface. The human response: confusion, then excitement. Inside the human garrison, alarms blared as Sergeant Daniel Carter and his team stared at the incoming enemy ships on their tactical display. Holy shit, they're actually doing it, Carter muttered. For years, this garrison had been stationed on Tetra 9 with nothing to do. No conflicts, no skirmishes, not even a pirate raid. The soldiers had spent their time performing mind-numbingly dull patrols, maintaining equipment that never got used, and playing endless rounds of who can throw a rock the farthest. Now, finally, something was happening. Command, we got incoming hostiles, Carter reported, trying and failing to sound professional. Looks like a full-blown alien invasion. Instead of panic, the response from their commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Vasquez, was disturbingly casual. All right, boys, Vasquez's voice crackled over the comms. Gear up. Let's show these aliens why you never F*** with bored humans. Excited murmurs spread through the garrison. Soldiers who had been moping around moments ago now rushed to their stations, grinning like kids on Christmas morning. Private Jenkins, who had been betting on when something exciting would finally happen, high-fived his squad mate. Told you, man. I told you it was gonna be this month. Dude, we're about to get shot at. Yeah, but finally. Within minutes, the garrison was fully mobilized. The soldiers weren't just ready for battle, they were eager. Xel'Nath commander's shock. Vorshakul, watching from his command ship, had expected immediate surrender. That was how lesser species reacted to overwhelming force. Instead, his battlefield reports showed something unsettling. Human troops weren't retreating. They weren't panicking. They were cheering. Vorsha narrowed his reptilian eyes. Why are they acting like this? A Xel'Nath officer hesitated before responding. They appear to be enthusiastic about the battle, Supreme Commander. Vorshakul hissed in confusion. This is not how this was supposed to go. Unbeknownst to the Xel'Nath, they had just made a fatal miscalculation. They had given a group of dangerously bored humans the most exciting event of their lives. And that was going to cost them dearly. 2. Underestimating the defenders. The Xel'Nath had conquered over 100 worlds. They had crushed resistance from warrior races, cybernetic civilizations, and hive-mind species with ease. Their military doctrine relied on superior numbers, discipline, and overwhelming firepower. Humanity, on the other hand, was still a relatively young player on the galactic stage. Their technology, while formidable, was not on the same level as the Xel'Nath's centuries-old war machines. More importantly, humans were an unknown variable, too unpredictable for reliable strategic analysis. Supreme Commander Vorshakul, however, had dismissed those concerns. "They are merely primitive mammals," he had assured his officers. "They will crumble as soon as our boots touch the ground." Now, as he observed the human response, a creeping sense of doubt entered his mind. Something was wrong. His intelligence officers had told him that small garrisons on remote outposts were typically undertrained, underequipped, and most importantly, demoralized. A group of soldiers left on a desolate rock for years should have been sluggish, lazy, and mentally unprepared for battle. Instead, the humans were moving with precision and speed. They weren't cowering in their bunkers. They were eagerly setting up ambush points, reinforcing barricades, and, most baffling of all, laughing. Vorshakul's second-in-command, a seasoned war leader named Zuralis, observed the human transmissions with a frown. "Supreme Commander, we are intercepting human comms. They are not calling for help." Vorsha narrowed his eyes. "Then what are they doing?" Zuralis hesitated. "They are making bets on how long we will last." Vorshakul's claws tightened around his command chair. "Impossible." 3. A surprising response. Inside the human garrison, the atmosphere was electric. Sergeant Carter and his squad had quickly divided into groups. The engineers were jury-rigging the colony's industrial tools into improvised weapons. The snipers were setting up their positions and assigning targets, making a competition out of it. The demolitions team was gleefully planting explosives in locations specifically designed to cause maximum confusion. The communications team was hacking into the Xel'Nath systems, not for intelligence but to broadcast memes and psychological warfare. Private Jenkins, who had a reputation for being both a genius and a complete menace, was already at work. "Yo, Carter," he called. "I just hijacked their PA system. What should we play first?" Sergeant Carter smirked. "Hit M with Ride of the Valkyries. Let him know what's coming." The colony's speakers crackled. Then, Wagner's orchestral masterpiece blasted through every Xel'Nath helmet, comm unit, and landing craft. The alien invaders, bred for war and trained to fear nothing, suddenly found themselves very uncomfortable. For boredom is the enemy. Most military commanders feared lack of discipline in their troops. But for the human soldiers of Tetra 9, the real enemy wasn't the Xel'Nath. It was boredom. They had been stationed here for 3 years. No action. No serious threats. No entertainment other than each other's increasingly dumb ideas. The last time anything remotely interesting had happened was when Corporal Vasquez tried to wrestle a giant lizard for beer money. He lost, but only barely. Now they had a full-scale alien invasion. This was the best thing to ever happen to them. The Xel'Nath had unknowingly activated a primal, chaotic force of nature. A group of human soldiers who had been waiting far too long for something to shoot at. 5. Finally, some fun. The Xel'Nath first wave landed near the colony perimeter, armored warriors stepping out of their dropships, energy rifles at the ready. Their combat AI predicted minimal resistance. Instead, they were greeted with fireworks. Not explosives, actual fireworks. The humans had set them up just to be dramatic. The aliens hesitated. Then, before they could react, boom! Explosions erupted from beneath their feet as the first wave of remote detonated mines activated. Bam! Sniper fire cracked through the air, but instead of aiming for the center of mass, the humans were deliberately shooting their weapons out of their hands, just to mess with them. Whoosh! A makeshift flamethrower drone, formerly a mining drone with a repurposed fuel injector, zipped through the air, setting several Xel'Nath warriors on fire. The aliens broke formation, confusion and fear spreading among their ranks. Then, over their comms, a human voice crackled in. "Welcome to Tetra 9, Motherf Asterisk Heirs. Hope you brought extra underwear. Asterisk asterisk. The battle had begun, and the Zelnath were already losing. 6. Unconventional warfare begins. The Zelnath prided themselves on their tactical discipline. Their soldiers moved in perfect synchronization, following strategies refined over centuries of war. Their armor was state-of-the-art, their weapons capable of vaporizing enemy forces in seconds. But their problem wasn't technology. It was that they had no idea how to fight humans. The moment the first wave touched down, their carefully planned battle formations were shattered by sheer chaotic insanity. Zelnath troops tried to advance in standard formation, only to find the terrain had been completely altered. The humans had spent the last 2 hours digging random trenches, setting up fake barricades, and placing holographic decoys just to confuse them. Their battle walkers, equipped with heavy plasma cannons, were suddenly rerouted into dead-end alleyways where they got stuck because the humans had removed street signs and replaced them with misleading ones. The reinforcement signals they sent to their command ships were intercepted and modified. Instead of distress calls, the fleet received messages like, "Everything's fine. Just a small issue with morale. No need for backup. Humans are actually pretty chill. We're making friends. Does anyone else hear ominous laughter?" By the time the Zelnath officers realized what was happening, their invasion force was already in disarray. And the worst part? The humans were just getting warmed up. 7. Prank warfare. Back in the Human Command Center, Lieutenant Colonel Vasquez was watching the chaos unfold with sheer, unfiltered joy. "All right, let's ramp it up," he said, lighting a cigar. "I want maximum psychological damage." Private Jenkins, their resident tech genius and war criminal in the making, grinned. "You got it, sir." What followed next was perhaps the most undignified series of events in Zelnath military history. The Zelnath comm system was hacked and filled with random Earth sounds, including a baby crying which sent their medical teams into panic mode, a dial-up internet connection noise which confused their engineers, an endless loop of "never gonna give you up," which caused mass frustration. Their helmet HUDs were altered so that enemy human soldiers were labeled as friendly and fellow Zelnath were labeled as danger. High threat. The Zelnath war banners were replaced overnight with giant smiley faces and pictures of Nicolas Cage. The Zelnath warriors, trained to face stoic, serious opponents, had no idea how to react. This is madness," one of their officers muttered, watching his troops descend into pure confusion. Supreme Commander Vorshikul clenched his claws in frustration. "These are not warriors," he snarled. "They are demons in human skin." 8. Weaponized humor. If there was one thing humans excelled at, it was turning war into entertainment. By this point, the soldiers weren't even treating the battle like a battle anymore. They were playing a game. And nothing was more dangerous than humans having fun. Snipers started competing to see who could land the most ridiculous shots. Corporal Ramirez scored a headshot through a reflective surface. Sergeant Liu managed to ricochet a bullet off 3 different objects before hitting his target. Private Duncan, somehow, sniped a Zelnath warrior's helmet clean off, without harming him. A group of engineers built a makeshift catapult and started launching live grenades inside enemy vehicles. The demolitions team rerouted an entire enemy battalion into a maze of explosive barrels, then detonated them in perfect sync with the Doom soundtrack. As the battle raged, Zelnath commanders attempted to rally their forces. But their warriors were terrified. They had fought many wars before. They had faced stoic resistance, cold discipline, and brutal efficiency. They had never faced opponents who were laughing while murdering them. 9. Sniper tag. At this point, Zelnath morale was crumbling. Their elite warriors, once proud and fearless, were now hesitant to advance. And then, the worst possible thing happened. The humans started playing sniper tag. For those unfamiliar with human military games, sniper tag is a long-standing tradition where snipers compete not to eliminate enemies quickly, but to see who can make the most ridiculous shot possible. One human sniper, Corporal Dempsey, shot a Zelnath soldier's belt buckle, causing his entire armor suit to fall apart in the middle of battle. Another, Sergeant Kovacs, managed to shoot the rifle out of one Zelnath's hands, only to shoot it again midair, sending it spinning directly into another warrior's face. A sniper team coordinated their shots so that 3 bullets ricocheted off different surfaces before hitting 3 separate targets at once. By now, some Zelnath troops were refusing to leave cover. "They are toying with us," a Zelnath commander screamed into his comms. "We are being hunted for sport." Supreme Commander Vorshakul was starting to panic. 10. The Zelnath began to fear. Up until this point, the Zelnath had been warriors. Now they were prey. The psychological toll was devastating. Zelnath soldiers refused to advance. Every time they tried, a sniper would shoot just close enough to make them second-guess their decision. The chain of command was breaking. Officers were giving orders, but their troops were too afraid to execute them. Paranoia was spreading. Some Zelnath started hearing human laughter, even when no humans were nearby. And then, over their comms, the final blow came. A voice, calm, confident, and deeply unsettling. "Attention, Zelnath forces. You are now participating in the first annual Tetra 9 hunting games. Current score, humans, 4,321. Zelnath 3. You may surrender at any time, or you may continue to entertain us. Your choice." End transmission. 11. The descent into madness. Zelnath forces were breaking. What was supposed to be a swift planetary occupation had turned into an unimaginable nightmare. The enemy wasn't following any logical battle tactics. The humans weren't fighting to survive, they were playing. And worst of all, they were winning. Supreme Commander Vorshakul gritted his fangs as he watched the battle unfold through his command monitors. His frontline forces were refusing to move forward, terrified of invisible snipers who seemed to be able to hit anything, anywhere, just for fun. His heavy infantry squads had been diverted into an abandoned warehouse district where every single door had been booby-trapped with comedic but devastating results. His communications teams were breaking down because the humans had hacked into their comm channels and replaced all official messages with recordings of human laughter, circus music, and the sound of a rubber chicken being squeezed. His entire army, the mighty and unstoppable Zelnath, was falling apart. And then, a single message appeared on his command screen. "How's it going up there, Supreme Commander? Hope you're enjoying the show." Winky face. Vorshakul's blood ran cold. They had hacked his private channel. 12. I think we broke them. Back in the Human Command Center, Lieutenant Colonel Vasquez took a long drag from his cigar, watching the absolute mess that was the Zelnath invasion force. Sergeant Carter chuckled as he observed a squad of terrified Zelnath warriors hiding behind a barricade, refusing to move forward. "I think we broke them," Carter mused. Private Jenkins leaned forward, grinning. "Should we go for the speedrun? See how fast we can make them surrender." Vasquez shook his head. "Nah. Let him stew a little longer." The humans had a golden opportunity. The Zelnath weren't just losing. They were losing their minds. Now it was time to push them over the edge. 13. Operation Haunted Battlefield. At this point, most Zelnath weren't even engaging the humans. They were too afraid to. So, the humans decided to take things to the next level. If the Zelnath were already on the verge of breaking, why not make them believe they were being hunted by ghosts? Thus began Operation Haunted Battlefield. Tactics included playing random whispers through hacked enemy comms, making Zelnath warriors believe something was stalking them. Using infrared lasers that were invisible to the naked eye but triggered enemy motion sensors, creating the illusion that unseen enemies were everywhere. Deploying drones with modified speakers that would randomly play distorted human laughter from dark corners of the battlefield. Placing life-sized cardboard cutouts of human soldiers in strategic locations, causing Zelnath to waste all their ammo shooting at them. It worked. Zelnath squads started firing at shadows, screaming at ghosts, and outright abandoning their posts. By the time Supreme Commander Vorshakul received his next battlefield report, it was pure madness. "Supreme Commander, we are under attack by something unnatural." Vorshakul's claws dug into his command console. "Report. Who is attacking you?" The officer on the screen was visibly shaking. We don't know. They're everywhere. We hear them laughing. They move too fast. They see everything. We can't. The transmission cut off. Vorshakul turned to his second-in-command, Zeralis, who was visibly pale. These humans, what are they? Zeralis whispered. Vorshakul had no answer. 14. The Great Desertion. The breaking point came 6 hours into the invasion. The Zelnath fleet, watching the horror unfold from orbit, started receiving distress signals from their ground forces. But instead of battle reports, the messages were pleas for evacuation. Entire platoons were abandoning their posts. Officers were ignoring orders. Some warriors had started removing their armor, hoping that if they looked less threatening, the humans would ignore them. Vorshakul's pride wouldn't allow him to order a retreat. But his fleet commanders saw the writing on the wall. One by one, Zelnath dropships began taking off, leaving their soldiers behind. It was an unthinkable disgrace in Zelnath military history. The mighty warriors of the Empire, fleeing in terror from a species that was supposed to be primitive. 15. The final message. Supreme Commander Vorshakul, now alone on the battlefield, stood atop a ruined command post, watching the last of his forces retreat into the wilderness. Above him, his own fleet was pulling out. He had lost. He had lost to a group of humans who had spent the last 3 years playing drinking games and throwing rocks at cactuses. And then, in the silence, his communicator beeped. An incoming transmission. Hesitant, he accepted it. The screen flickered. And then, a grinning human face appeared. Sergeant Carter. Yo, Supreme Commander. Hell of a fight, man. You guys did great. Vorshakul's fists shook with rage. You. Hey, Carter interrupted, holding up his hands. No hard feelings, right? I mean, we had a blast. Hope you did too. Vorshakul's eye twitched. Carter leaned forward. Oh, and just so you know, the human's grin widened. If you ever come back, we'll be even more bored next time. Transmission ended. 16. Aftermath. A galactic scandal. The Zelnath Empire never spoke of the Battle of Tetra. 9. Official reports classified it as a strategic withdrawal. But the truth? The truth spread fast. Other alien races began whispering about the humans, the insane, unpredictable demons who had turned war into a game. Zelnath warriors who had survived the battle refused to discuss what had happened. Some even left the military entirely, too traumatized to fight again. The Zelnath stopped expanding into human territory. No official explanation was given. And as for the soldiers of Tetra 9, they went right back to being bored. But now, they had something new to entertain themselves with. Telling the story of how they made an entire alien empire fear humanity. And every time someone asked, did that really happen? They just grinned. Oh yeah. And next time, we're gonna make it even crazier. 17. The Galactic Fallout. News of the Battle of Tetra 9 spread across the galaxy faster than any official Zelnath report. Trade guilds began reassessing their contracts with humanity, unwilling to risk angering a species that treated war like a sport. The Trison Alliance immediately opened diplomatic channels with Earth, issuing vague statements about mutual respect and cooperation, which, in galactic politics, translated to, please, for the love of the stars, don't turn us into your next entertainment event. Mercenaries and pirates outright refused to take jobs targeting human colonies. One well-known pirate summed it up best. Bro, they play war like it's a **ing video game. Did you see that battle? But the biggest impact was felt by the Zelnath Empire itself. 18. The fall of an empire? The Zelnath had always been a proud warrior race. Their empire was built on the principle that no one can defeat us. Now, their humiliating defeat was being broadcast everywhere. Compilation videos. Zelnath invasion gone wrong. Montage clips. Zelnath versus humans, but with cartoon sound effects. Footage of Zelnath soldiers running away from cardboard cutouts, overlaid with dramatic music and slow-motion effects. Even inside the Empire, the fallout was massive. The War Council demanded immediate revenge. Diplomats pleaded to just move on and pretend it never happened. The Zelnath Supreme Lord was so furious that he personally executed several high-ranking generals who had fled Tetra 9. But the biggest problem wasn't just their reputation. It was the loss of morale. For centuries, the Zelnath military had never known fear. Now, their soldiers whispered horrified tales about humans. The laughing monsters. The demons who turned war into a game. 19. A new fear in the galaxy. Across the stars, many civilizations weren't laughing. For them, Tetra 9 wasn't just a battle. It was a warning. Humans aren't just violent. They enjoy it. The Arakan Confederacy began pushing for a formal trade alliance with Earth, hoping that economic ties would keep them on humanity's good side. The Mtervash Scientific Council abruptly shut down their human experimentation programs after watching the battle footage. Pirate clans and black market syndicates blacklisted human territories, citing unacceptable levels of risk. No one wanted to admit it, but deep down, everyone feared the same thing. Humans didn't just survive war. They had fun with it, and that made them the most terrifying species in the universe. 20. Meanwhile, on Tetra 9, somewhere in the desert region of the planet, two human soldiers sat by a fire, watching the stars. Sergeant Carter passed a flask of whiskey to Private Jenkins. "Think they'll come back?" Jenkins asked, barely suppressing a grin. Carter took a slow sip, thinking, maybe. But if they do, he tossed a pebble into the fire. "We'll be even more bored next time." And that was the greatest threat of all. The end, or just the beginning. Rocket fire. What do you think? Want to continue the story into diplomatic negotiations, Zelnath revenge attempts, or humanity's new status as an untouchable galactic power? Smiling face with horns. Conclusion. The day the galaxy learned fear. The Battle of Tetra 9 was supposed to be a routine conquest. For the Zelnath Empire, it was meant to be just another step in their galactic domination. Instead, it became a turning point in interstellar history. For centuries, the dominant powers of the galaxy had categorized species based on their military capabilities, technological advancements, and strategic intelligence. Humans had been seen as moderately capable but unremarkable. That assumption died on Tetra 9. The Zelnath didn't just lose a battle. They didn't just lose soldiers, ships, and resources. They lost the illusion of control. Because for the first time, they faced an enemy that didn't just resist. Humans didn't fight for survival. They fought for fun. And that realization spread like wildfire across the galactic community. Why the Zelnath truly lost. It wasn't superior firepower that won the battle. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and technologically inferior. It wasn't strategic brilliance. Their tactics weren't based on logic. They were based on pure chaos, unpredictability, and psychological warfare. The Zelnath lost because their warriors were trained for traditional combat. Humans, on the other hand, weren't just warriors. They were pranksters, engineers, psychopaths with sniper rifles, and a dark sense of humor. The Zelnath fought for conquest. The humans fought because they were bored. And in the end, boredom turned out to be the deadliest weapon of all. The aftermath. A galaxy changed forever. Even after the last Zelnath ship fled from Tetra 9, the echoes of the battle remained. Zelnath troops began deserting in record numbers, haunted by the memory of an enemy that laughed while hunting them. Interstellar mercenaries rewrote their risk assessments, marking human-controlled worlds as extreme threat zones. Galactic superpowers stopped viewing humanity as an afterthought. Instead, they began treating them as something else entirely, a species too dangerous to provoke. Humanity didn't just win a battle. They rewrote the rules of war. And now, across the stars, every commander, every leader, every war strategist was asking the same question. If this is what humans do when they're bored, what happens when they get serious? The galaxy wasn't ready to find out. And that, more than anything, was why no one dared to invade human space again. Final thoughts. The myth of the Laughing Warriors. Legends spread. Stories grew. The The Zelnath refused to speak of Tetra 9, but the whispers never stopped. In dark corners of space, alien soldiers told horror stories about the laughing humans, the creatures that hacked their comms just to play jokes, the snipers that didn't just kill, but made it a game, the warriors that enjoyed the fight too much. Some called it a fluke. Some called it a warning. But those who truly understood what had happened on Tetra 9 knew the truth. It wasn't humanity's weapons that made them dangerous. It was their minds. Because a species that could turn war into a game could never truly be defeated. And the galaxy would never forget it. The end. Rocket fire. What do you think? Should we explore what happens next in galactic politics? Or maybe a Zelnath revenge mission that goes even worse for them? Smiling face with horns.